Working harder is a trap that they want you to believe is true so that they can get the most out of you. They are not going to give it to the busy one. They're going to give it to someone they think has capacity and potential. The game's not just about delivering results. It's about also being known and seen, being visible to the right people in the right rooms before the decisions were made. And the difference between women who stay stuck and the women who break through it is almost always some women get better and some women get bitter. If you're going to get bitter, which is understandable, valid, and counterproductive, I want to give you a 3-phase framework. I want you to have something you can actually use, not just a story that made you feel good and then faded away.
Enough already! You've worked harder, stayed later, smiled through it, you've shrunk yourself, you've overexplained yourself, you've apologized for yourself, and still walked away feeling like you were the problem. You weren't. You've been playing by rules that were never designed for you, and you're exhausted. You're done. I'm Coach Mo Fall, and this is Enough Already, the podcast for women who are done performing and ready to heal, reclaim, and redefine what their life actually gets to look like when you step into your real power. No more shrinking, no more trying to be less or more, or whatever they need you to be. We're going to name exactly what happened, get free from it, and figure out what comes next. This is your space. This is your moment. Women, we are rising. Let's get into it.
I was the most senior person in the room. I had the experience, I had the results, I had the receipts, and I asked to lead the project. They gave it to a 25-year-old man. And I sat there, very professional, very composed, doing the math about how could this possibly happen? And the answer, when I finally let myself hear it, was simple. It wasn't about the project. It was about the game I was playing. And I didn't know it. I didn't know the game I was playing. Today, I'm going to tell you a story of a client of mine, and then I'm going to tell you what happened next, because the next part is the one that actually matters. Enough already. You've worked harder, stayed later, smiled through it, you shrunk yourself, you've overexplained yourself, you've apologized for yourself, you've still walked away feeling like you were the problem. You weren't. You've been playing by the rules that were never designed for you, and you are exhausted. You're done. I'm Coach Mo, and this is Enough Already, the podcast for women who are done overperforming and they're ready to heal, reclaim, and redefine what their life actually gets to look like. When you step into your real power, your soul, there's no more shrinking, no more trying to be less or more or whatever you need to be, no more performing. Because when you find your soul power, you stop performing and you start leading. You start being the authority and the power and the awesomeness that you always have been. You were just shamed or convinced not to do it. So we're going to name the exact pattern that happened. We're going to get free from it and figure out what comes next. This is your space. This is your moment. And women, we are rising. Let's get into it. Okay. So welcome back to Enough Already. I'm Coach Mo. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to tell you a story, actually 2 of them, and mine and a client's. And I'm telling them back to back because they carry the same truth. And that truth is what this entire episode is built around. Here's my opening question for you. And I want you to actually sit with this. Can you name the moment, the specific moment, when you realized that working harder was not the answer? Maybe you're still not quite there. And I'm going to say this, not sort of like a vague awareness of what am I doing wrong, but the moment, the meeting, the conversation, the decision that landed in your chest like a stone and made you think something's wrong here. And I can't keep thinking that it's me. And you know what? It's that point where you're on track. If you can name it when that happened, good. We're going to use it today. If you can't name it yet, you might be able to by the end of this episode, because that moment, it's not a wound, it's a turning point. And the difference between women who stay stuck and the women who break through it is almost always whether you let it teach you something and let it tell you the truth. So let me tell you my story. So I spent nearly 30 years in healthcare leadership. I had climbed from being a nurse. I had delivered results. I learned the unwritten rules of every room I walked into, and I had played them mostly, and I had gotten pretty far. And then there was this meeting. I was not the most senior person in the room. I had more experience than nearly everyone else at the table around me. And I asked professionally, strategically, with full context and a clear rationale to lead a major project. A project I was objectively the most qualified person to run. And they said no. I'm still stunned thinking about it. The real explanation? No, here's what would make you the right fit next time. Just not now. They didn't really say what would make me fit. It's just not now. Just no. And then I want you to really hear this. They gave it to a 25-year-old man. Someone I guess they thought was on his way up, and they wanted to challenge him and see what he could do. Now, I need to be honest with you about what happened next, because this is the part that always leave out of the inspirational version of the story. I did not have a powerful revelation at this meeting. I did not exit the room clear-eyed and decisive. I went home and I did what I had always done. I worked harder. I made myself more indispensable. And I thought, if I just continue to be excellent, eventually they have to see it. I still was flabbergasted. I wasn't chosen. I know we've all been there. Raise your hand if you're listening. Yes, in the car is okay. It counts. If you've told yourself the version of, I'll just keep delivering, they'll notice. It's okay. It's reasonable response to an unreasonable situation. It just doesn't work, does it? Working harder is a trap that they want you to believe is true so that they can get the most out of you. And how many times have you overperformed and someone else got the recognition? And I'm not asking you theoretically, just really think about that. What eventually shifted for me wasn't a single moment of clarity. It was more like the accumulation of what became impossible for me to rationalize away. That project wasn't the first time something like that had happened. It happened pretty regularly over my career. And most of my career was in rooms where I was either one or two of the women in the room, and there were a lot of dudes. So it was just that particular time I realized that what I was doing and how I was doing it was not cool. And if I look back at how that gentleman conducted himself, like, he was never bothered by anything. He was sort of like above it all. Not in an arrogant way, actually, just more in a cool, calm, and collected. Like, he had plenty of capacity left. So here's your pattern I want you to really think hard about stopping. And that is playing the excellence game. Heads down, results first, let the work speak for itself, and the work will speak for you. But in a room where decisions are made, they are not going to give it to the busy one. They're going to give it to someone they think has capacity and potential. And the game's not just about delivering results. There has to be some results. It's about also being known and seen, being visible to the right people in the right rooms before the decisions were made. It's about relationships and access and the informal network that I, like most women, had been systematically excluded from and had never been told explicitly how to build. And guys sort of like do that. And they've been nurtured and taught that. Women have been isolated and taught to be a single hard worker. So I stopped trying to be tougher and more excellent and more invisible. And I decided, well, first of all, that was costing me so much. And I started playing strategically, not being cynical and pouty face, but strategic. And there's a difference. That shift is what took me into the C-suite. When I interviewed for my first CEO role, I interviewed with 12 physicians and their attorney. And I knew that I couldn't appear desperate for the role. I knew I had to be cool, calm, and Like I could be a CEO, like sitting in that room. And I realized I just said like about 5 times. So it's important not that you need to perform, but that you internally own that space. I got myself so ready for that CEO interview. I put myself in CEO mindset and soul power. I knew that job was for me. And I acted interested, but not overeager. It's the same thing that got me into the chief operating officer roles, my last role. I didn't get there because someone finally noticed me. I got there because I stopped wanting to be noticed and started making myself undeniable. So when I spoke to the hiring managers and all those people necessary for that CEO role, which was 15 years before my career ended. So I was CEO for 3.5 years and then COO for a very large company the last 3 years plus of my career. So just thinking about how I had to be, how I had to show up, I had to be the person who could handle and carry out those roles. I had to talk in a manner to exude confidence and authority that I got this. And I had to turn all of my accomplishments into ways that could translate how they could see me fulfilling the role. Funny story about the CEO role. In the final interview, they asked me and 2 other candidates a particular question about a healthcare regulation that I had never heard of. And maybe they called it like the National Protective Law. I don't remember what they said. And I said, honestly, I have never heard of that. And that surprises me because I'm on top of my game. I know what's going on in healthcare. I'm very well educated, very schooled, very experienced. I've never heard of that. Happy to look at it and do my research and get back to you, but I've never heard of that. The other 2 guys fudged their way through an answer. The interview was specifically set up to see who would lie or tell the truth. I was the only one who told the truth. Those guys fudged it because they didn't feel confident not knowing something. And I went right away when I found this out and called my parents and thanked them for raising someone who knew truth. And I can't deviate from truth. Now, I'm not going to tell people truth if it's hurtful or not really strategically necessary. But that was a turning point for me also to just be me and not try to pretend. So let's talk about Candace. Some of you have heard her name before on this very show. And if you have, you know her story is one I keep coming back to because it is one of the clearest examples I've ever witnessed of a woman making the shift from overworked to undeniable. Candace is a senior solutions consultant in tech. She works for one of the biggest companies in the world. Engineer by training, she's become a business owner. She's a deep woman of faith and one of the most deliberate human beings I've had the privilege of working with. She came to my work at a point of genuine frustration. She's a Black woman. She works with a lot of white dudes, and she was delivering. She was consistently delivering, and she was quiet. She had been in her company long enough to know the culture, to know her value, to know exactly what she was contributing. And she could see clearly and undeniably that it wasn't being reflected in how she was being moved up or not moved up. She was not being moved forward. Have you ever watched someone with less experience than you get handed something that should have been yours, not as a suspicion, as a fact, witnessed with your very own eyes? I have seen it many times, and Candace did too. And it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. It was watching a new colleague walk in, brand new first week, and get handed the informal infrastructure that Candace had been patiently trying to build for herself, for her results, for years. The introductions, the access, the casual lunches with senior leaders, the let me tell you how things really work around here conversations, the invisible roadmap that tells you not just what to do, but how the organization actually operates. Candace watched this transfer of knowledge happen freely, automatically, without the colleague even having to ask, like it was being handed to him. And she understood something that nobody had ever said to her directly. The system was not broken for everyone. It was working exactly as designed for someone who looked like her colleague, and it was not going to spontaneously redesign itself on her behalf. You can sit with that for a second. Here's the moment I want you to really hear, because this is where most women go one of two ways. Some women get better and some women get bitter. If you're going to get bitter, which is understandable, valid, and counterproductive, some women decide to fix the system inside, which can take a long time. But the fix inside is not just in the company, it's in you. Candace did this. She made a decision, a very specific decision, very deliberate, financially uncomfortable decision. She invested in herself, in coaching with me and my team, in the methodology that I have been building all my career, the tools that would let her stop waiting for the organization to develop her and start developing herself. And you know what? Most of that was her presence and the power that she was hiding because she was feeling less than. And when you feel less than, you're going to hide your power, you're not going to speak up, and you're going to be afraid. You're never going to be seen as ready for the next thing if that's how you're operating. And Candace told me this, and I'm quoting her directly because I love this. You're pricey, but you're good. And I mean it. I appreciate the honesty. We're going to put that on a mug maybe someday. But here's what that sentence tells me about Candace. She was not in a position of comfort when she made the investment. She was frustrated, she was tired, and she had real financial considerations and a growing family. And she's thinking, if I don't grow my career, my future is not going to look as bright as I want it to be. She chose to invest in herself because she saw the long game. If she didn't change, she wasn't going to have the career and the life that she wanted. She needed to change. And as much as she wanted to blame the system, blame racism, blame sexism, she took radical responsibility. She understood that staying in her pattern was way more expensive than getting coaching and the support. And that decision was the turning point. And what happened in the next 90 days after that decision is not magic. It appears to be, but it's methodical and magical. So the method is actually what I have learned over my entire career. And her shift went from being overlooked to undeniable and confident. It's built on a soul foundation. And I want to walk you through that 90-day arc and what it actually looked like for Candace, because I think we talk about transformation in vague terms, and that doesn't help you. So let's be specific. The first 30 days are the inside work, really getting to know who you are as a human being, not as a professional woman, as a human. And the part that makes people nervous about this, when I say your soul or your internal self, can't we just work on tactics and what I have to do? You'll never change what you do unless you truly know who you are and you harness your power. And that's how all of my clients get results, because we do the first 30 days work. It's important that you reduce your nervous system, understand who you are at the soul level. You know, there's a person in there that exists at the soul level, and she's waiting for you to wake her up. She's waiting for you to say hello. She's waiting for you to be reintroduced. And in those 30 days, what Candace did, what I call the evidence confrontation, she stopped looking at herself through her organization's eyes that had not been seeing her clearly, and she looked at herself and her actual track record. She delivered results that she wouldn't have owned if she didn't have her soul power. Her client relationships were awesome, but again, when she didn't feel awesome, she sort of brushed that off like it was normal. Her impact, her specific, documented, impossible to dispute track record that she was able to own once she felt awesome inside. It's funny how when you don't really feel awesome, you sort of shrug off your accomplishments. Part of it is you've got so many blind spots about how you could possibly be awesome. Part of it is such a depleted sense of self that you can't even see it. Literally, you're like looking through blinders, not able to see the stuff that you've done and who you are. So when's the last time you actually wrote down your actual wins? Not your job description, not your responsibilities, your actual wins. And let yourself read it without immediately qualifying or disqualifying everything on it. If you have accomplished something that saved your company money, reduced risk, increased client satisfaction, increased client retention, increased revenue, decreased cost, ramped up something fast, like that's what you need to do. And it is important, and I have my clients do this every single day, that you understand how awesome you are. And since you're usually running a tape of how not awesome you are, that's usually the background music in our mind is kicking ourselves, criticizing ourselves, talking trash. When you begin to see truthfully on top of the soul coming back to life, and then you remind yourself daily, that's the most important work you can do. And this is more about you being visible to you, not visibility as a general statement. I'm telling you that when you feel awesome, it's going to be more natural for you to talk about your accomplishments, for you to be visible, and for you to start posting on LinkedIn, reaching out to colleagues who may not be directly in your path, but it's important for you to expand your network. Candace has gotten to be so visible and so accomplished in her visibility that she actually started a venue in her local town for weddings and special events that has won awards and prizes. So she not only has this job with one of the top 3 tech companies, she's also developed her own business. And she runs it with her sisters, and she's phenomenally successful and visible. If you've ever tried to do a business, or maybe you're doing a business now, you know that being visible is a big part of being successful. I know that. If I wasn't telling you the story, if I wasn't showing you what I know to be true about professional women, you'd never be interested in my work. So Candace did 3 things that I see were the biggest difference for her. She reached out to the new managing director, not with some fake storyline or pitch, with a genuine question about the direction of the organization. We helped and coached her in what that conversation needed to include, and she made herself a real person with real strategic thinking, not just a name on an org chart or on a phone list or whatever. She requested skip-level conversations. She made sure that people above her direct manager knew who she was. This is the part most women skip, pardon the pun, because it feels presumptuous. It's not presumptuous. It's strategic. Smart, successful people realize that this is something that you got to do. So only the jerks in your organization are going to start bad-mouthing you about it. So Candace started narrating her work, not bragging, connecting. Every significant outcome got communicated upward with context. Not, I finished the project, the results the project produced, and why those results mattered to the goals of the organization that are articulated and communicated. She attached herself to what the organization wanted to achieve. And the third 30 days were about the ask, and this is where the inside work and the visibility work made the ask land completely different than it would have before she started working with us, or before she did the soul work, or before she started communicating and making herself visible. Candace went up for a promotion. The first time she didn't get it, and she stayed. As a matter of fact, in most of this type of coaching, I'm helping women up level and get new jobs. And Candace was really, really clear she wanted to stay with the organization because of the upside and the potential and stock options and all sorts of things that were in her benefit to stay. So she no longer was a pushover. She understood that she was playing a longer game, and she had already decided that she wasn't going to let one not yet rewrite the story that she had spent 90 days building up to. 90 days after 15, 20 years of a career, it takes a little bit of time. That's a sapling. The second time she went up to her for a promotion, her manager's handover to the new leader was, in Candace's words, something she wished she had recorded, because it was everything she had been delivering, said out loud, with authority, by someone with the power to make it matter. She got the promotion. She is now in her dream home. Her parents walked through it and could hardly believe where they were standing. Her daughters watching their mother do the thing. And Candace, in her own word, thriving, not surviving, thriving. And the Candace who is thriving today is not a different Candace. She is a fully expressed Candace. This is the same woman who was sitting across from me, frustrated and ready to quit and not knowing where to turn. The woman who, afraid, made an investment in her future. The difference is that she stopped waiting for the organization to see her, and she made it impossible not to see her. She got active. She put herself out there. And this is what's undeniably a success strategy. It doesn't look like suddenly becoming louder or more aggressive or a different version of yourself. It looks like being completely, specifically, strategically yourself, your full capacity, visible in the right places, claimed without apology. And the decision about you becomes obvious because you are then obviously having more potential and you're someone people want to have in the room. Let that one sit with you. Visibility comes after strategy, always. I want to give you a 3-phase framework. I want you to have something you can actually use, not just a story that made you feel good and then faded away. I always like you to pin these podcast episodes into something that you can do, actionable, change your life, make decisions better, change the trajectory, stop playing victim or martyr. So here's phase 1, the evidence confrontation. Your job this month is to build an unassailable internal case, not for your manager, for you, because you cannot advocate for something you don't fully believe. And most women, even the most accomplished ones, have never let themselves claim their full record without immediately qualifying it or downplaying. Write down your top 10 career wins, specific outcomes, not general, and not responsibilities, outcomes. Something with a number and a percentage. Something with a result or outcome that makes a difference, that someone outside your company would understand. For each one of those, write what would not have happened if you weren't there. That's your real impact. If I wasn't there, we wouldn't have fill in the blank. I want you to read it without editing, without the but, without the a lot of people helped. You can acknowledge collaboration without erasing yourself. I led a project that had this outcome of a 40% increase in client satisfaction. I was the leader who mobilized my entire team to do all the things on our strategic plan to accomplish this goal. We did a 40% move in 1 year by executing on a plan that I led with my team. Can you say something like that in that way? I hope so. So what's the win you keep underselling when you say something out loud? You know which one I mean, don't you? Like the thing that you did that you never fully claimed because it felt like too much to say out loud, or maybe you didn't really even believe yourself that you did it. So here's phase 2, strategic visibility. Visibility is not about posting your mindset on LinkedIn or a thought that you had at a conference. Visibility is making sure that the specific people who will influence your next move had direct, recent, firsthand experience of your thinking and of how you think and how you maneuver challenges and difficulties and obstacles so you can get results. Map the 3 people who have real influence over your next move, not your fans, but the people with power. And for each one, what to do about your work now so that they can hear about you, you can be seen, and they can experience you directly. If you cannot be in rooms or meetings with those people, ask for alliances. Hey, Martha, I know that you've seen my work on Project ABC, and I really am getting very good at leading teams and projects and making sure that we've got what the client wants. I would love for you to advocate for me in meetings where I'm not in, that perhaps people need to hear about me so I can be ready for that next promotion. Would you do that for me? Can I count on you? If you can have that conversation, real conversation with someone who can be a real ally for you, go have it. Make your list. Have those conversations. Have a result that they would know about before you ask. Phase 3, follow up with your ask. Keep being visible. This is where the 2 phases matter. So you're going to find your accomplishments, you're going to identify the 3 people, and you're going to make your ask. And when you've done with the evidence confrontation, when you believe what you're asking for, it comes out of your mouth differently. And when you have built the visibility, when the right people have direct experience of you, the ask isn't coming out of nowhere. It's the logical next conversation. So get specific, title, scope, what you want, not I'm hoping to grow. What exactly do you want? One of our clients actually used our AI intelligence, knowledge-based coach Mo called Moby. And she got really, really straight with her accomplishments. And she had a really great conversation with her boss about what would it take for her to be seen as a vice president for her next career move. She said that conversation with her boss was so much different than any conversation she had ever had because she was one of those women who had the vagueness. Candace learned how to get specific, how to own her truth. And most of our clients learn how to do that and execute on. So have the conversation. Have it before you feel ready, but don't have it before you have your outcomes played out and very specific. Feeling ready is not required. Doing when you're tooled up is what you want to do. So here's the honest question. Is there a conversation you've been ready to have for 6 months that you keep putting off? What would it take to have that conversation this week? So remember, I want to talk to your soul right now. I want to talk to the woman who's qualified, who is delivering, who's been doing everything she was told to do and watching people with shorter track records and louder voices and more access to the informal network get moved forward while she waits. If that is you, I want to say this without any softening because I think you deserve the direct version. You were not overlooked because you weren't good enough. You were overlooked because the system that distributes recognition and opportunity was not built with you in mind, and it does not self-correct without intervention. And as a matter of fact, it's likely not to self-correct. You have to navigate it. The intervention is you getting clear about who you are, what you've delivered, and what you want. Not working harder, not being more patient or grateful or strategic or shrinking. You deciding from this point forward, your career is not going to be managed by anyone who doesn't know the full picture. And that full picture is something you are going to have to make sure they have. So that's the shift. Candace's 90-day story, not a new personality, not a different version of yourself, a version that stops waiting and starts making yourself undeniable. I love that this could be a big thing for you. I also know that the system is telling you to wait. The system is telling you it's scary and don't do it. Your friends and family may say, just be grateful for what you have. And that advocating for yourself, you're likely to lose something. What if you lose your job because you ask for something? That's just not true. It's true if you're an ass about it. Okay. So it's time to stop letting others narrate your story. Before we get to your the 3 things of what to stop, what to start, and what to carry forward, I'm describing this 90-day framework, and it sounds like something that you've been trying to do alone. I want you to know there's a different way. Several months ago, I started a leadership collective, and this is where work and action combines with a deepened sense of who you are as a leader. We're live, we're in community, and I'm coaching these gals. I'm also putting them into action every month. It's a private leadership membership for professional women who are ready to stop dimming their leadership light and step into the visibility, confidence, and impact they were built for. And yes, we do this in the age of AI because the truth is AI can automate performance and tasks, but it cannot automate presence, humanity, and the edge of what is required in this fast-moving era of AI is exactly what we do in the Leadership Collective. It's your humanity. It's your difference-making self. That will not be replaced by AI. The collective gives you a weekly private podcast from me of real coaching directly every week. No fluff. Monthly Q&A with me, hot seat coaching, your actual situation in real time with real answers. Monthly leadership lab. One deep skill per month. Visibility, influence, boundaries, executive communication. In this current month, we're doing AI transformation career plan. Then we do a monthly soul reset meditation. I have a specific curated meditation that I do for that particular month for the Leadership Collective only. And that meditation is to help you integrate at the soul level the things that you're learning in the Leadership Collective. I also have a leadership vault where previous sessions, scripts for hard conversations, templates, AI prompts that create great results, a private community of women who are doing this alongside you because isolation is expensive and you've been doing this long enough alone. This is not a course. This is not a one-time program. It's an ongoing collaboration and calibration space, the coaching and community that keeps you rising month after month, no matter how fast the world moves. The women inside the collective, they're saying things like, I can finally speak my power now. I own the room every time, and I know when I need to. My career has accelerated beyond what I ever expected. And that's not marketing language. These are real women like you, women who are sitting exactly where you're sitting right now, deciding whether this was the moment. This is a $297 a month subscription, which is frankly less than one bad month of feeling stuck. As a matter of fact, the amount over a year is still probably less than what you're leaving on the table by not knowing how to advocate for yourself. So let's go from overlooked to undeniable with coaching, community, and me in your corner. Go to mofall.com/TLC. And you can also watch the replay of my 5 critical leadership fixes training. The link is in the show notes. And that training alone will show you exactly what's been standing between you and the recognition you've already earned. This is Coach Mo. We'll see you on the next episode. Check out the information for the Leadership Collective at mofall.com/TLC. See you on the next episode.
If today's episode hit home, share it with a woman who needs to hear it. Because the best thing we can do is make sure no woman sits alone in an experience that has a name. You've been listening to enough already. I'm Coach Mo Fall. Please subscribe and like and comment so this can be sent to more women just like you who needs to hear there is a different way. Take good care.